Hey folks, John Becker here, Union Township trustee and former state representative from Claremont County, bringing to you the March issue of the Becker Report. So the Becker Report is a monthly publication I've been doing since 2004, sending it out to, I think I got about 700 people or so currently on distribution. And you can also find it at www.beckergop.com. And at the end of this video, you can find my contact information there and email address and such if you want to get a hold of me. So in this month's edition, just a couple of things on there. This is a brief video this time. So I start off with really, elections have consequences. And the U.S. Supreme Court nominee, this Judge Brown, appears to be extraordinarily liberal, but that's no surprise. She doesn't even know, when life begins or the definition of a woman. So these things are concerning. Her views on the Second Amendment are also concerning, but again, no surprise. And we're back to elections have consequences. The other thing I have is in the last trustees meeting, the one in early March, I did a presentation on the debt analysis for Union Township. If you want to see those slides or that video, the slides are online. I will link to that, or get that linked in the Becker Report, and also provide a link to it in this video. And at the end of this video, as soon as I'm finished talking here, I'm going to continue with 10 minutes of that last trustees meeting. At 10 minutes, just my presentation of the debt analysis complete with the slides. So that's it for the March edition, and I'll be back next month with more. Hey, have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right, on to item G, Union Township debt review and discussion. I'll give the floor to you, Mr. Becker.
All right, so the backstory on this, I guess to begin with, is so this was, I guess it was over the summer. I started looking at township financial reports, and I'm looking at a line called debt servicing, and I'm doing some quick math, and comparing it to total revenues and total expenses. The debt servicing number was almost 40% of our total expenses. So that sounded like a lot to me. I didn't know if I should be alarmed by that or not, or my level of concern. So that did concern me, and then I learned, as a little time went by, learned that part of that debt servicing is actually the refinancing of short-term notes. So it kind of inflates, if you will, that 40% or 38 point something percent number. However, it begs another question. Okay, if we're refinancing short-term notes and a large dollar amount of them, and we are in an inflationary environment, which was starting up last summer, then it's just a matter of time, as we know from past history, the Fed's going to start raising rates, and when the rates start going up, we're going to be refinancing all this short-term debt, and our debt maintenance cost, interest expense, is going to be going up with it. So, which of course begs the question, okay, how concerned do I need to be about all of that? And of course, what nobody knows is how soon will rates go up, how fast, and how far. Well, we'll see as time goes by. So then let's fast forward to January, February. I'm asking questions, sitting down with our fiscal officer and interim administrator, and had a meeting. So there was 4 of us in a meeting from a company called Bradley Payne, and so, this meeting was like, I guess I'll call it Union Township Debt for Dummies. I was a dummy in the room. So, I got this packet here that's got, detailed information on the payoff schedules and such. And so what I did is put together some charts, kind of one-stop shopping, see it up on the board. And that big blue, I'm going to spend most of my time here just talking about this first chart. The rest of it I'm going to go through pretty quickly. But that big blue Pac-Man looking graph there. I know you can't read that from where you're sitting, but all this is going to be out on the website for the township, so you can look at it at your leisure. But that big item there is $22.8 million, and that's called a bond anticipation note. So that's 68% of the total debt that Union Township has. So 68% of all of our debt is refinanced every year as a short-term note. However, what I learned from the good people at Bradley Payne is there's more to the story and a lot more to the story. So this is actually a complicated bond product that we have. It dates back to I think when Doug Walter was the administrator, and so it is a derivative. And so I'm getting into areas that are not my expertise. Start talking derivatives. So the derivative is an interest rate swap. So kind of talking in high level, oversimplifying, and kind of trying to put things in bumper sticker style language is, even though it's a short-term note, to us, it is fixed at 3.9%. So that's not the whole story, because there's something called a true-up that's involved, but generally our cost, although, again, there's a true-up I'm not sure how many hundreds of thousands that could be, but in addition to 3.9, so that bond is something that we don't have to really worry about in terms of the immediate short-term rates that the Fed is going to be put in place, or as they crank up the rates. However, so I asked the question, okay, so at what point do rates go up high enough that this becomes an issue or something we need to be looking at paying off or doing something about? And he said, well, you need to be watching the LIBOR rate. I thought, aha, that's something I know something about. I worked at Provident Bank. I worked with LIBOR rates. So LIBOR, what's LIBOR? London Interbank Offertory Rate. That's an international international benchmark. It's an average interest rate that's derived from banks loaning money to each other, kind of speaking about it generally. So if the LIBOR rate were to get up to 3.9%, or in the vicinity of the rate that we're paying on his bond, and a LIBOR rate is currently at 1.35, I think it is, right? 1.38, I think, was today's rate. And that's the 52-week range on LIBOR is, I think it was 0.22 up to 1.39. So if that rate gets to like 3.9, then we're going to have some decisions to make. So on that particular debt instrument, my recommendation to the board is, at this point, do nothing, because I was concerned, is this something we're going to want to pay off, refinance? I would say no. What I want to do is watch the LIBOR rates, and I want to have an annual meeting with this gentleman who works for Bradley Payne and get a update on on all of our debts. Let's go to the next slide, Corey. So this next slide, yeah, you guys can't read that at all. So again, it's going to be on the website. So the next slide, that is just a amortization schedule of all of our debts combined. So that first column, it starts with the Civic Center debt. That's a bond anticipation notes, $22.8 million, and that gets paid off at 2032. So I got all of the other debts lined up in the different columns, and that last column is the total balance. Go to the next slide. Then that is easier to see, the classic hockey stick. So that's just saying our total debt, again, so that's just the previous slide in a graphical format. That's just the total debt, how it drops off down to the year, with a 2033. And it drops down to $2 million from its current level of $34 million. Next slide. Next slide, this is a principal and interest schedule. So this would be the equivalent if you were, if you had half a dozen houses that you owned, or half a dozen investment properties, and you wanted to look at all your principal and interest expense on one page, that's what this is. And the total debt service is at the end. Next chart. And then this is the last one I have, and you can see again at the 2033, this is where it drops off. So this is our total debt servicing. The blue line is the principal. The goldish rust-colored line is the interest, and you can see after 2033, getting into 2034, it's much more predictable what you see similar to a home mortgage of increasing principal year to year, then decreasing interest. And with that, gentlemen, any questions for me?
I appreciate you digging in on that, Mr. Becker. And what I take away from that is watch the LIBOR rate and have that annual meeting, and also would enjoy that as well. I see that it specifically kind of ties into what you're digging out there to find answers on, is something that ties directly to, if, you know, may hear me say frequently enough, that's about launching an annual strategic plan, and then also launching for the first time a township administrator's operating budget, because a township administrator's operating budget can at least take what you're saying and put that into the kind of those bumper sticker elements of information to say this is what's going on. So don't have to go climb down deep into the hole. Now you can always do that annually and quarterly, but I know that the residents, as a service to the residents, I think it's very valuable to be able to have that strategic plan, get the input and engagement from the residents, but at the same rate tie that up with the township administrator's operating budget, and I think that's what we get to. So I think that's great, having a benchmark for the LIBOR rate. So, Mr. Dills?
Mr. Becker, you put a lot of work into that. Yeah, appreciate you having that meeting as well. So very much, yeah, thank you.
Well, this is an area I was, focused on and concerned about, and, after, the more I learned, the more comfortable I was. And so just having an understanding of it, this doesn't have to keep me awake at night anymore.
Yep.
So just having the understanding of kind of where we are and the potential for potholes as we move forward with the debt and the interest rates. It is what it is. We can't change the past. It's just a matter of what do we do with what we have today. And I think, there's really, it just needs to be watched. And again, the key thing to be watching going forward is just simply the LIBOR rates.
That's good.
That's great.
So to be clear about this, our debt service for this year is $3,451,827.
Thanks, Ron.
All right, thank you, Mr. Becker.